Hello and welcome to the Brandon Ramacco podcast. I have with me today a Sharon Rolph. She is a life coach and sometimes called the Queen of Courage. I'm very excited to have her on. So thanks for being here and welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brandon. I appreciate you reaching out because I do feel like I'm a unique model of health. So let's talk about that.
Well, mental health and mental wellness, its whole body well-being is part of health. And it's becoming, the more and more research that's done, the more we find that you sometimes have to treat the self and not the body to finally get someone to feel better. So I've been really excited to have you on ever since we booked this meeting. Maybe before we delve into it, could you give the audience maybe a bit of an introduction of sort of your story and where you came from?
Well, I live in Edmonds, Washington, north of Seattle, and I was raised on a farm about 200 miles away from here. And so I grew up gathering eggs and stacking hay and picking apples and peaches and, having the homegrown lifestyle. And I became a behavioral scientist. I have a master's degree in that. And I also am a certified knowledge manager, and that makes me unique in itself.
Certified knowledge manager, like what does that mean?
Well, in fact, we kind of asked that while we were getting our degree. What ads do we look for? They said, well, look for human relations positions. And I guess in the last couple of years, my job kind of entailed human relations, where I was trying to empower people to solve problems at the lowest level at Boeing. So, but I've always loved to bring out the best in people, potential and purpose, and helping people think about possibilities, and curiosity and courage is always just something I love. I want to bring out the best in people. And I bet that's probably part of your goal too, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Although for you, I suppose you were doing it for the company, and I'm doing it to get rid of their chronic problems and chronic pain. I'm always furthering my own education, and I've been studying a field called functional medicine. And functional medicine, it's an interesting field. It can be expensive to see a functional medicine specialist because it involves just a ton of testing. Because there's a billion things that can be going wrong with someone. In functional medicine, so let's say someone's low in estrogen. Well, the typical thing to do is, well, they're low in estrogen, let's give them estrogen. Which works for some people. And actually, you're at the age, I'm sure someone's talked to you about hormone replacement therapy, about whether that's an appropriate thing or not, or something you want or not. And so that's typically the route. Okay, they test for estrogen is low, let's give this person estrogen. Well, functional medicine would be, well, what are all the hormones and enzymes that come before estrogen is created? Where is the low part coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe there's a problem with the breakdown of estrogen. The breakdown of estrogen is happening too quickly. So what's happening there? So it's looking so before and after. So it's a lot more testing. But interesting. This ties into what you said. I have a purpose to my story. Cortisol, stress. Your body can take cholesterol. A lot of people think cholesterol is bad. It's not bad. You actually need cholesterol to make hormones. It's necessary. So cholesterol, your body can actually use that to make cortisol, so it's the stress hormone, instead of testosterone for guys, instead of estrogen for women, instead of progesterone. It can all go and end up as cortisol for stress. So many people trying to get pregnant, and they don't get pregnant until they quit their job, and then they get pregnant like the next cycle. And a lot of people with hormone issues, they end up resolving when they finally switch jobs, or maybe in your job, maybe you were helping people to be the best employee they could be, the happiest employee, and you're also helping people get pregnant, helping people gain over chronic pain, helping people get more energy from more testosterone. Um, so so treating mental health, getting people positive, has so many health benefits.
Right, right.
Did you
Well,
did you notice that in your sort of practice?
well, in fact, I lead a group weekly on Wednesdays that is loneliness to resilience, and we were
Mm.
talking about purpose today and how purpose gives you better health, more longevity, more meaning, more happiness. So yeah, there's such a difference that purpose makes on our lives, and when we don't have it, probably that impacts more, probably more stress in people's lives too.
So purpose. So there was a study done on mice or rats about the effect of helplessness on health.
Uh-huh.
So they took these mice and they actually gave them all cancer. They implanted cancer into all of these people, or all these mice. And the mice that they just kept in a normal cage, their body actually fought off the cancer that was inserted into them, and their body's immune system actually destroyed the cancer and rejected it. Great, that's what the body's supposed to do. The other two groups of mice, one was put in a cage that would electrically shock them every certain time interval, but the mouse would have a lever that they could push to deactivate it.
Mm-hmm.
So the shocks stress them out, but it's like, okay, I have control. As long as I stay here on the lever, the shocks stop, and the mouse would quickly figure that out. And then they had, of course, a mouse that had no control over it. And I'm trying to remember the exact percentages. I'm not sure. I've studied so many studies over the past couple of days, but I think it was 20% of the mice that were shocked couldn't reject the cancer, and I think 50 or 60% of the mice who had no control couldn't reject the cancer. So their bodies just couldn't fight the cancer because of helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
Similar study done in humans. They looked at care practitioners for people with Alzheimer's, which is a fairly helpless feeling condition when you're trying to be a caregiver, and their stress hormones were through the roof. Their all-cause mortalities were through the roof. So being helpless, feeling helpless, is has so many physiological effects.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
It's we talk about energy levels, and it's true. Purpose, happiness, your body's ability to fight infection, C-reactive protein levels. Like this isn't all in our heads. We can do blood tests. Yeah, happy one day, fulfilled one day. Going to church could bring fulfillment. Helping your grandkids could bring fulfillment. Doing that for a day versus staying alone and feeling helpless, and the blood tests come back different.
Yeah, in fact, I just wrote a course, yeah, course on on volunteering, because volunteering. My mom had told me when I was like about 14 that when you do something good for somebody else, it makes them feel good, but it also makes you feel good. So you're both benefiting. And so my byline to my volunteer course is, it feels good. Do it because it feels good. And the whole, somehow, that is taught a lot in churches, but there's a lot of people not going to church anymore. And so in my course, I did a little preaching with I created 5 modules and a few lessons that you would normally get from your pastor or minister, that I put some nuggets in there because it's still truth that benefits us in our lives. So I have done a lot of, even getting a cold. No, I'm not getting a cold. Shoot, go away. and I think during the pandemic, I maybe had one cold. No shots, no COVID, no, get away from here. You're not welcome here.
Yeah, yeah. And interestingly enough, that attitude is better for fighting a cold than extra vitamin C.
Well, I will take some emergency or some honey or lemon, to make sure I wake up good in the morning. But
Yeah,
yeah,
not that you can't have multiple things all trying to help you, right?
yeah,
Um, so many people think that there's just one fix for every problem, um, one magic bullet. Oh, there's so many books out there. Oh, the secret why you're sick is this one thing, or the cure for everything is this one thing. No, 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 no. It's all together, and you can have overlapping problems. Um, that's why actually a lot of doctors fail to cure chronic pain because, oh, I found your one problem, I'll treat that one problem. Now you can have overlapping problems and you can have overlapping solutions to solve a problem.
yeah, yeah,
And an attitude, taking ginseng, for example, is definitely stimulates the immune system, for example. So a lot of people, whenever they start to feel sick or scared of being sick, they take ginseng. Positive attitude helps for ginseng. Sometimes it helps with fighting a cold, preventing a cold. And we talked about sort of emotion and energy levels. Sometimes it's sort of the preemptive nap. I feel like I'm going to get cold. I've heard so many people like, you know what? I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm gonna just focus on having a good sleep tonight. I'm going to have a midday nap. That's going to be my focus today. I cancel my afternoon meeting. I'm going to have a good nap. Actually, interesting. I'm sort of you talked about you optimizing workers, and I'm sort of interested in that. Like, how did you do that? Like, what was actually your day to day work like optimizing business? I know you're focused more on giving people purpose, sort of in retirement, but sort of like how do you optimize people in a business?
Well, it was more, I was working with teams, and we were called them employee involvement teams. And they were, whenever they were encountering a problem, the point was is that how could they analyze it themselves and come up with some trial and error kind of solutions. The hard part of my job, though, Dr. Brandon, was that it was a union shop, and the union shop wants to blame management, and so they were averse to taking on. And actually, I think there was more problem solving being done unofficially, like under the table. They had encountered this issue in the past of the career, and so they had some expertise and experience to draw on. But to make it formal and bring it and put it up on the table and analyze it in front of management wasn't so much what they liked to do. But I was noticing that the young people that were coming in fresh out of college, so many of their projects in school were in fact team based. So solving problems together was what they were comfortable with and actually expecting at Boeing. So it was changing about the time I left in 2016 it was. So there was a different mindset coming in, but the union kind of plugged into that helplessness thing. If I'm blaming management, then I'm skating free, and yet I'm worrying about it because it's maybe impacting how easy I can do my job. But that helplessness, I kept being irritated at whatever statement came out. They would twist it in such a way that it made management look bad instead of them.
And you don't have control over someone else. You don't have control over management. So it really does put you in a position of helplessness. I'm in a bad situation. They caused it. There's nothing I can do about it. Um, I think I've been watching lots of lectures recently. One was about toxic emotions, and they went into bitterness. And I think that's a better term for what you're describing than helplessness. Although they share sort of that mentality of I'm not in control. It's management. Management is making it bad. It's management's problem. I'm angry, but being angry at management doesn't necessarily get you out of a bad situation or a bad headspace. It doesn't actually get work done on the project. It doesn't. It's sort of a core practice of cognitive behavioral therapy. I'll note cognitive behavioral therapy is the go-to of mental health counselors. There's the most research on it. So many other coaches end up using it because it's an evolution of the self-image from psycho-cybernetics. What was that book was written in the 1960s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes sense. You have control over yourself. You think about, what are your own thoughts? What are your motivations? How do you interact with other people? What are your actions? What are the connections between your thoughts and your actions? How do they reinforce each other? Your thoughts, feelings, and actions, I should say, because it forms sort of a triangle that can go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so if you think you're helpless and you're angry, is that helpful? Are those helpful thoughts? Do those lead to helpful actions? And if they don't, well, let's stop thinking like that.
Yeah, yeah. Because that whole self-empowerment, self-esteem, self-confidence, I think there's probably some types of leadership that uh, didn't help the self-esteem stuff. I don't know if the leaders are into that anymore, but we're finding in my loneliness to resilience group last month we were talking about belonging and how even just being on getting work done individually doesn't always feel like teamwork because you're responsible for your little piece of the big puzzle. But when you're working as like the young people coming into Boeing, when you're working on something together, you more likely are going to have each other's back. You're going to be concerned about are you succeeding or failing or what's your dreams. That's my speaker last week was success and failures and dreams. You don't share those with just everybody, and it's been void at a lot of work lately. But when you have this feeling that you're in it together and you're elbow to elbow and you're solving something together, you're collaborating. Well, I love collaborating. It kind of goes along with synergy. And one of the principles of knowledge management, at least I cook it down to if Brandon puts out on the table what he knows and I put out on the table what I know, the possibility of new knowledge emerges. That innovative factor and creativity come into play. And look, we just created magic. I love that.
I love that too because I think it's boring if I just go out and make a YouTube video just me talking to a camera, and then there's questions I don't think of. There's things I don't think of, and the dynamicism of an interview, it can elevate to that next level.
Sure, sure. And in fact, one of the last lessons I learned at Boeing about 6 months before I left was the power of a neutral third person. Like if you and I were arguing and there was another person standing there next to us, they might see a point that either one of us left out that totally changes the picture of what we're arguing about. And so they can lob that in. Oh, yeah, I forgot that happened. Or I forgot that somebody had success and now it can apply to this too. So that neutral third person, maybe in your field, it might be called advocates of medicine. I've never had any cancer ever, but I would imagine being told that the results are, well, from then on, how am I listening at all? I'm starting to worry about how that's going to affect my days and or lack of days. So an advocate is a powerful thing, and they help me hear what you are saying, and I'm not actually hearing.
Well, your story actually brought me back to my teaching days. So I was a college teacher, but I ended up working a lot with administration because I was curriculum coordinator. And so I was on all the science committees. I did program review committees. So I was often meeting with the dean or meetings with the dean and meetings across the college with all of the department leaders. And man, those meetings sometimes got way off the rails. And We would have been beneficial sometimes, even in the smaller meetings, to have a more neutral party to say, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I tried to be the voice of reason, but sometimes I'm involved in it being, you end up down this rabbit hole where you're talking about this one little thing and people are getting angry about this one little thing. And it's about budget and you're arguing about the best way to teach us something. And it's like, the meeting's supposed to be an hour and it ends up being 3, 4 hours long.
Whoa, sounds boring.
It was terrible. It was a nightmare. I do not miss the department meetings. I miss teaching, but definitely not the meetings and administration and politics.
Yeah,
Oh,
politics, that's a lot. Yeah.
we're not going to get into it in that video, but boy, education politics is a hot topic now. It was back then, and it's even worse now in the US and in Canada. So, I have a question about health coaching and life coaching because there's been an explosion of people calling themselves health coaches and life coaches, and there is actually in the States a certified health and wellness coaching certification, which is nice to have. I am in the camp that it is possible to have experts that don't have a certain certification, though. Let sort of the free market decide who's good and who's bad. Let the sort of patient or client research and make their decision on their own. So, for example, with your history, with your past, your education, I'd imagine you are a wonderful life coach. But what's your thought on, there's so many online courses. Become a life coach, online, remote income, 10-hour course. What are your thoughts about that? Is having so many life coaches good for society? Do you think there should be certification? Do you think people should just research on their own about the individual's qualifications?
Well, I graduated from a stiff program. They had high standards, but I didn't go through the process. Why I started through it. You had to practice what you've been taught, and I think I had to have required to have 100 hours of mentored supervision, and I think I got up to 70. And it was never important to me to become certified. I wanted, well, the whole program was transformational for me and changed my life, but I'm more interested in being a speaker. And in fact, this fall, I'm going to be in a class that's actually on a cruise ship, but I want to talk on cruise ships because that's where the boomers are, and I would have a captive audience. And I asked here 2, 3 weeks ago about also there's a new term called collective or conscious facilitation and collective potential, collective intelligence. And it's about, yes, we're here and this is our problem, but we're not looking at the history, we're looking at the future. Where do we want to go with the future? And that we are listening and digging into nuggets that is in every one of us, but nobody asks us for our opinion. The sage on the stage has the answer. Well, they're starting to move beyond that. The sage would set the stage for what we're trying to accomplish. And now you get in small groups of just 3 people and give them a short window of time to say their nugget of what they think needs to be done or could be done, maybe their experience. And then you come back into a collective, and these nuggets are being shared from the various tables or breakout rooms. And you get to powerful solutions because we're looking at a future instead of delving into these 4-hour meetings of what went off the rail.
And
So,
you're right.
and to do that on a cruise ship, I'm thinking maybe we can solve homelessness on a cruise ship.
Yeah. And the concept of breakout rooms, I'm sure you're aware, is sort of a pedagogical, like, that's also a hot term right now. Movements in education research. groups, talking, coming up with solutions, not just listening to someone on a stage, being involved in and active in solving things. It's the better way to learn. It's more enjoyable for most. It's just a better way to engage with material. So I don't know if you're aware of what you're doing is the recommended way of learning and working.
Well, the guy the class I took, I was so impressed with his what he was bringing to the table, and then I have a book here that sounds just like what he's doing, just called Community, and it's being willing to share your feelings and ownership, accountability, and caring. Well, in work groups, does a leader promote caring? You know, so often we're promoting getting a project done, but you know, if somebody had a spouse die, and do they care enough to say, go take as much time as you need and come back when you're ready? That didn't even happen that much in my day, you know, of working. But that caring and accountability and that thriving energy that comes from feeling the problem and how would you want to solve it. So the guy, so in the Community book, Peter Block is the author, and he was one of my first books that I read in I don't know what course I was in, but it was Peter Block I followed for quite a while, and he said he talked a lot about I being a citizen and being willing to take responsibility for whatever the issue is, not necessarily owning the problem, but owning a solution and being willing to stand up for something. And that's what we were kind of doing with this conscious facilitation. And the point, Doctor, was the process of learning that I came through is too slow. Nowadays, we have to learn at a steeper rate. Mm-hmm. And when we're getting nuggets of truth and wisdom from people that are choosing to solve the problem, then that effectiveness is so much faster and greater. And that whole collaboration, I mean, it feeds into that collaboration that I love anyway.
And what you said just circles back to that helplessness again. That's a rejection of helplessness. Again.
Yeah. It's always been important to me to feel heard. That's a strong conviction and often I didn't. I even in coaching classes, I was one of the last ones to speak. And I had a way of kind of summarizing what was being said and recommending a book or a speaker that ties into what the nugget of what we're talking about. So that was maybe my safe response, but and yet just in the last couple of days, I've been trying to find the statement again that so struck home with me that people, it's probably what's feeding loneliness is the lack of being seen and the lack of being heard. And that can also play into why there's mental health issues, right?
So I want to give you an because I'm curious. So could you say a little bit more? You mentioned you were doing this course or offering this, I think, seminar. Could you tell me and the audience, what exactly do you offer as services? Because there's so many people in my audience who have commented that, they enjoy my podcasts and videos, but it's helped them feel a little bit more positive and help with anxiety and depression. But I think they would also benefit possibly some from your program.
Oh, yeah. Let me first say, while you're talking about mental health, the one thing that made such a difference, I think, in my health, not that I've had any health issues, but the mindset is to not refuse to live my life based on fear. So I had just transferred to Tampa, Florida with my job. I knew 4 or 5 people there, but I never saw them on a daily basis. But my friends up here had sent at my goodbye party, what's your words of wisdom for Sharon when she leaves for Tampa? And one of the statements was, well, give yourself at least 6 months to get used to life down there before you decide to come home. And it was during those 6 months that I was reading. In fact, I remember on the plane down to Tampa was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mm-hmm.
And someplace about month 3 or 4, I was starting to feel a little bit homesick. And I don't remember how it was that I came across some verses in the Bible in Joshua chapters 1 and 2. That talks about courage about 10 times. Do not be afraid. Be of good courage. Be of great courage. Do not be afraid. And so I started stomping my foot and saying, I refuse to live my life based on fear. No, I don't know a lot of people here. I would often go to work and say, well, if I was back home, I would go to this kind of store to get this kind of part to solve a problem, and I didn't even know the answers to that. So that refusing to live my life based on fear, I believe, has made a huge difference in my vitality and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I am getting so sick of there being pharmaceutical ads on every commercial break on TV. I want to throw up because they're brainwashing us. So when you take fear out of the picture, and a good book that is probably pretty controversial, that kind of hits that really hard on the head, is a book by Napoleon Hill. Now, people may know Napoleon Hill as the author of Think and Grow Rich back in the 30s and 40s, but he's got one that's called Outwitting the Devil. And it talks about all kinds of fears. There's like 7 or 8 major fears, of fear of dying and fear of being criticized and fear of not being loved and stuff like that. But it also hits on the fact that a lot of people are coasting in life and not doing their own thinking. So that helplessness might be a byproduct of not doing their own thinking. Mm-hmm. So I've always had kind of a strong perspective on my own authenticity. I'm not very much one to be an actor and kind of lying a part of somebody else's script. I'm bad at that. Don't ask me to do that. Even dancing and trying to figure footsteps are sometimes challenging even. But because of my hot button for potential and authenticity, I was a good one. If you wanted to have tweak up your resume to, match either a job you're looking for or to make sure you highlight what you're good at, I would be a good one to help you that, because I'm often more objective about your skills than you are. You're too close to it sometimes. So that whole bringing out your best even applied to helping people with their resume. But let's see, where were we going with that?
Your offerings, your courses, or coaching.
Okay. So most recently, in May, I made this course on Make a Marvelous Transition into Volunteering. And it is on my website under SharonRolph.com, ROLPH. And it's I just have one course so far, but I'm also putting it on a new program, a new platform called The Great Discovery. I don't think it's quite up yet. We're going to have a meeting again tomorrow that we'll probably get it, but on The Great Discovery, they're translating courses into 100 languages. So it's going to be easy to be available on the global platform. But I also have on SharonRolph.com a couple of free things like a call to courage. I talk about the basis of courage to be, to do, and to have. And another one is, it's not as related to health, but it's creating a new life after retirement. Because oftentimes without our business card,
Hmm.
we don't know who we are because we don't have a title and a team anymore. We don't have structure to our day.
Yeah.
That can cause stress. Let me tell you.
People's
Because,
whole self-identity can be their job title.
oh yeah. And that can also be their title. I mean, their purpose, but that purpose is gone now.
Hmm.
I don't have kids. I never married. And oftentimes kids are pulling you into their competition or their birthday parties or all kinds of things. And, when you have a dozen kids pulling you 50 different ways, that creates stress.
Hmm.
But a call to courage is free on my SharonRolph.com. And if you've forgotten what your dreams were, I have created now this one's it just costs $10, but it's what's possible. I list out like 48 different things that could be possible, like touching the water in the 7 oceans,
Hmm.
or singing to prisoners at your local jail. Or one of my podcast guests was a guy that mentored first, second, and third graders on their reading and math. Imagine the joy of seeing them walk across the stage at graduation from high school and realize he changed somebody's life because he helped them read and math. And, you do that 10 times and you've got Christmas times 10. Every day to think about what a difference you made in somebody's life. So I do have a book called Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment. And it is on Amazon. And I cover several of the stories of the people that I had on my podcast. One lady planned customer service projects around the world for a year. She wound up feeding baby lions, riding elephants, and her favorite story was helping a baboon sanctuary animals get back to good health. And she came back with so many new friends all around the world, and she stretched her heart. She felt a need to stretch her heart. And, that might be good medicine for heart patients, right?
Yeah. And people, so I've led a very strange life. I'm currently living in Indonesia. I came here actually looking to date someone I met online, and I'm just living here now, and my career path is all over the place. Not smart for making money, but people look at my life, and I had pain, right? So I needed to solve it, so I went and I learned how to solve it. And I don't have any pain anymore. So success. But some people are like, how did you have the courage to do those things? Or how do you end up doing all those things? And I just did them. Like, time is a currency. It's a cost. Now, I often talk to my peers around 30s and 40s, and like, I could never do that. And actually, now that I think about it, I talk to people just retired. Oh, I can't do that either. It's like, well, are you sure you can't do that? Or maybe you need to change your goal into a goal that you can do. But like, time is a currency, a resource. And some people are like, oh, I'll do that in 20 years, or I don't have the money for that now. But time is precious. And time is a currency, and there are so many possibilities every day. Is it better to be watching 24-hour CNN coverage where they just rerun the same 20 minutes over and over again, day after day after day? Or should you go out and volunteer to feel good? Should you sit down maybe with your family and friends and get a spreadsheet? Okay, what are my goals? What are things that I think might be fun to do? What are things I could do in this life, in this world? What are things that bring me joy? Let me start talking to my neighbors. I don't have any friends anymore. How do I make friends? I'm going to start saying, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to try to say hi to 3 people on every walk.
I take 4 biscuits with me every walk I do, and then I get to feed the dogs biscuits, as I walk. And that I come home with a better attitude and feeling good about, being able to have fun with the dogs. And yeah, exactly.
I have a couple plugs that I'm going to do that feed into what we've been saying. So one is I put out a video called "How to Change," which is on the YouTube channel somewhere, and on the if you're listening to this as a podcast, it should be there too. I think it was the first podcast I recorded, and I think that's a good introduction to some of these mental aspects of how to make changes. Secondly, I will plug my own book, which isn't about solutions. Pain is not a life sentence. It's one of possibly 3 books I'm going to write. So it's not a book of this is the solution. It's about self-education, so you can be an advocate for your own health. Yeah. Often you can, sadly, each doctor, each specialist has sort of blinders on, and if they were trained 30 years ago, they're not up to date with the latest research. So you can be more well informed than even your surgeon, perhaps, of the possibilities, both in what could be wrong and in what the possible solutions could be, so you could maybe search them out if you need to. Sadly, that's the reality. But the feeling hopeless about it doesn't get your problem solved. And that's the worst, is the hopelessness. So hopefully that gives you things to try, solutions to chase after, to get chronic musculoskeletal issues solved. And the last thing I'm going to plug is there is a medical specialty called lifestyle medicine, which is slowly gaining traction. There's an American College of Lifestyle Medicine, an American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, an International Board of Lifestyle Medicine. So it's a board medical specialty. Actually, I also have the specialty. They open it up to all doctorate level health professionals, I believe. Actually, I think it might even expand beyond doctor level, so even master's level. Maybe you could also join the specialty if you want. I don't think it's necessary for you. I found the education wasn't that in-depth, but it's very in-depth for medical doctors who receive nothing about the effect of stress, the effect of helplessness, the effect of having a purpose, positive psychology. And that was some of the content of this course. Also, some of the content was things like type 2 diabetes is reversible in the early to mid stage. It's completely 100% reversible. And a lot of doctors basically say, well, you have type 2 diabetes now. Here's your metformin. And as it progresses, then we'll put you on insulin. And as it progresses, we'll have to cut off your foot. And as it progresses, you'll die. Okay. It turns out you just have to change your diet and it's reversible and it'll go away. Like often patients aren't even told that.
Right.
And so but sadly the specialty and the how to do it correctly, it doesn't pay well through insurance. So you have to really search out these people and hope that they open their own practice so they can have hour-long sessions instead of these 5-minute doctor visits where they just prescribe pills, so that they can actually help a patient actually get to some of the root cause, which for some people might be stress, might be a lack of purpose. But I love what you said so much so far about your book and your course. And so I advise people, if it sounds like it might be helpful to you, definitely seek this type of information out. From Sharon, from my own courses, seek help to get out of depression, anxiety, helplessness, because every moment is precious, every day is precious. There's no need to wait even another day of just in front of CNN.
So I have a solution that's vitally important as well. And in fact, okay. I found this quote by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He's a CNN guy, right?
Okay.
A neurosurgeon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he says self-discovery, knowing yourself, self-discovery is one of the surest ways to develop a greater appreciation for your life. Positive psychology. Okay, so here, the first thing they taught us in coaching school is to write our essence statement. Now, because essence has gotten to be a pretty popular word, I've decided to change it to inner spark, or intrinsic motivation. And in some of the classes I've been in, they say, well, Sharon sparkles. Yeah, you should use that as a Sharon. So My niche now is I teach newly retired singles how to sparkle without torturing their friends and family. Here's my essence or inner spark. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
Beautiful, personal, motivational to yourself.
Yeah, so in fact, I started bouncing off the wall after 3, 4 months of retiring because I thought, how do I know if I'm productive? There's nobody, no boss to keep happy. And I'd put my essence statement on a wall hanging, and I had mounted on the wall behind me until I guess somebody thought it wasn't so professional. But anyway, I remember one day coming in and reading it 3 different times. And I gradually realized that when I live from what matters to me, it every day felt productive. In fact, as we completed that exercise at school, we had to stand in a circle and read our essence statement to each other. And as it came my time, I kind of sucked in my breath and I thought, nobody's ever asked me to define my soul before. That's what it felt like. So now I'm referring to my spark or essence as soul defined, or my GPS, or my DNA. It's all very much related to what's inside, knowing myself.
So that's beautiful. I think we'll probably wrap up with that because I think that's a great lesson to end on. Do you have any other final statements?
Well, no, I do have. I'm going to be putting that course on the Great Discovery. I don't know how long it will take me. One of my favorite sayings, and this I did see at work hanging on the wall: if one has a talent and fails to use it, one has failed. If one has a talent and partially uses it, one has partially failed. But if one has a talent and finds somehow to use the whole of it, they have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction few people ever know. I want that for everybody. That's a Thomas Wolfe quote.
So thank you so much for joining me. I think we created a little bit of magic today.
Thank
And
you for having me. I was very appreciative for somebody that thinks outside the box when it comes to wellness.